Lol Tolhurst, firstly, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And look, congratulations on this rather wonderful book of yours, The Tale of Two Imaginary Boys Cured, or the other way around. Firstly, I've got to ask you about this. When you're writing all these things down, these memories down, what kind of emotions come to mind or come to the fore when you're doing that? It must be quite strange to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's a question of not just remembering some of it; it's a question of reliving some of it when you write it. So it was kind of cathartic, a lot of the process. And it's funny because I wrote it. I got myself a little office to write, and it was a co-working space. And a couple of the guys that worked there all the time, sometimes they would see me, and I'd be writing away, and tears would be rolling down my cheeks. And they'd come over and go, "Are you all right? Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, I have to relive something as I'm writing it." So, it was quite an emotional process.
Putting together something like this as well, when you're thinking back on a really big and significant part of your life, taking out of the equation all the artistic things that went into it and creative things, does it give you a new perspective on what you achieved as part of a really, really influential band?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that one of the main reasons I did it in the first place was to kind of explain my life to myself. I got to a point where I'd been thinking about writing a book for a long time, and I got the opportunity to do it by a set of circumstances, and I thought, okay, I should just go ahead and do it. But once you start to do something like that, and you start to analyze what's gone on, you realize that there's been an awful lot of things happen down the line, and a process that you have to put it all together to make sense of it all. And memory is a very strange thing. It's very slippery. We all think we have really good memories about stuff, but usually they're kind of episodic, and we don't really it's not as disciplined and as analytical as we might want for it to be, which is one reason I made the distinction at the beginning of the book about this being a memoir. It's how I remember things, and it's not autobiographical in the way of absolutely slaved to facts. It's my impression of my life and how things happened.
And I mean, have you had any feedback from from band members or people you worked with at the time? Are they happy about it? Or I'm sure a few people have a bone of contention, but generally, how has it gone down with people who were there at the time?
I think I gave Robert the first copy of the book, and I told him about it way in advance. Because, a long time ago I asked him, "Hey, are you going to ever write a book?" And he's like, "Well, I don't think so." He said, "I think I might have a 16-page comic in me, but that's about it." So he was never going to write the history of how we started, how it all came about. And so for me, the connection I felt with the band my whole life is I feel that it fell to me to do that, because I feel that I'm the only person in the band that has the knowledge of certain events, and also the desire to want to write about it. And it's been very positive. Like that, Simon was very happy about me writing the book. I know that, and like I say, if it had been something bad in it, I think I would have heard by now. From I don't think it's the sort of thing that would have stopped somebody from saying, "Oh, I'm not happy with this part." And I was good about telling most people what was going to happen and who the people that were going to be in there. But my friend, I have a writer friend who told me, "You better tell not just the people who are in it. You better tell the people who are not in it, because they'll get upset as well if they're not in it."
Yeah. Just in relation to Cure, the albums that were made when you were in the Cure, are there any that particularly stand out that you are particularly proud of or particularly close to and fond of?
Well, in terms of the albums, I mean, I think to myself, the band in my head gets divided into two separate bands. And there's three-piece Cure, which, Pornography was the pinnacle for me. then the five-piece Cure, which is really the Cure of Kiss Me and stuff. So that's the two albums that I'm the most proud of.
What is it about? I suppose I would know "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me" a little bit better than the first one. What is it about that album that has stuck with you and makes you proud? I guess.
I think more than anything, because it was such a collaborative effort from everybody in the band. We had about 100 pieces of music prepared for that. And we pared it down to about 35, and the reason it's a double album, it could have been a triple album quite easily. It's a very fertile creative period for the band, and so therefore I enjoyed that because, it's like writing the book. For me, it's been the most creative thing I've done since about that period. And when you get that vein, when you finally get into a point where you can be the conduit to make all that stuff come forward, it's a very satisfying experience for any artist, whether they're a musical artist or a painter or a writer. It's something that you spend all your existence trying to find and trying to find the muse to do, and when you get it, it's a really great feeling.
I read somewhere recently that there are only a handful of great double albums, and "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me" was one of the albums that was mentioned. There's a Bob Dylan record in there too, and I can't quite remember the others. But I mean, double albums kind of have there is a kind of sometimes an underlying attachment that there's a lot of filler on that. With "Kiss Me," there really wasn't. There was a lot of, and you're telling me that there could have been a triple album as well, but there really was. It was incredibly complete album. Do you think that's a fair description?
Well, I think it's hard. I mean, I understand what people would say. Well, maybe a double album, sometimes they can be overblown. I think the thing about "Kiss Me" is it's quite succinct. It has a lot of songs, but every song is there, for a reason, and every song means something in the context of the whole record. I mean, people don't think so much nowadays in terms of records because, the vinyl format was what defined, the 8 songs or 9 songs that made up an album, and people liked to, and I mean, the Cure were no different. We like to have a theme to go through our material so that we could, just make it a more complete piece. And we were lucky that for "Kiss Me," it became complete, and there wasn't anything on it that we thought, oh well, that's just something sort of marking a bit of extra space. They were all they're all tracks that we were proud of.
And obviously, you've toured with the band for a very long time. A book tour, how are you finding that? How is it?
Well, this book tour, I mean, I talked to my I have a literary agent now and stuff, so I talked to my agent recently about, when we first started doing the book tour, and I said, well, how many events do authors normally do, Peter? And he said, well, about 5 or 10. And I think we're on about 75. So, we've spent the whole year on the road with Cure, and it's like a rock tour, except it's a bit more civilized. You're usually finished by about 8 or 9 in the evening, and you can go out to dinner instead of driving around Pittsburgh at 2 o'clock in the morning looking for something to eat, which is what happens on most rock tours. So it's been very good, and I mean, I think that I took the lessons that I learned from being on the road with the band with this book tour, because, for instance, in Ireland, we've been to the bigger places, like we've been to Dublin and we've been in Cork, but we've also done events in places like Boyle, small town with the Arts Festival, because with the Cure back in the day, we found that if we went to the big cities, sure, people will come and see us, but the big cities tend to be a bit more jaded, and because they always get everybody comes through the big city. And we would go to some of the smaller places, and people really respond to that because they're grateful that you bothered to come and visit them and play to them, and that helped with the continuity of the Cure, and also I think really the support that we've had. You got to remember the Cure's been going for nearly 40 years now, and apart from sort of dipping about the early 90s with Britpop, it's been pretty successful from day one. So I'm quite happy about that.
Well, I'm sure you are. And look, congratulations on this book, and wherever the tour brings you to next, I wish you the very best of luck with that too.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dan.